Hey, good morning, church. It's Chris here. I'm going to bring you today's devotion, and I want to read to you from Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through to 8. It's a parable that Jesus told, not one of his most famous ones, but I'm sure that you are familiar with it nonetheless. Verse 1. Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and he asked him, what is this that I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager here any longer. The manager said to himself, oh, what am I going to do now? My master's taken away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm too ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do, so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their homes. So he called each one of his master's debtor, and he asked the first one, so how much do you owe my master? 800 gallons of olive oil, he replied. Well, take your bill quickly. Make it 400. Then he asked the second one, how much do you owe my master? 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. So he told him again, go take your bill and make it 800. Then in verse 8 it says the master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. It's a very interesting parable, because on the surface it looks like the manager is being commended for his dishonesty, but he's not being commended for his dishonesty. He's being commended for the way in which he responded to his change of circumstances. You see, he was about to lose his job, perhaps lose his financial security. But rather than just moping about it, rather than just blaming everything else, he set about doing something to ensure his future security. And the way that he did it is that he realized where his resources were. His future resources were in his present relationships. So he set about strengthening those relationships. Not only did he settle all of his master's bills, but also he won the favor of all of his clients. He widened his relational network so that in that time of change and in that time of trouble, he had resources that he could go to. God has given us this wonderful resource called the church. God has placed us in family. God has placed us in community. And we need to know where our strength is. I remember many years ago at a conference in Bradford, Paul Scanlon said, your resources are in your relationships. You see, even when our circumstances change, even when we go through troubled times, when we know where our resources are, we can adapt. We can draw on them. Not only are others a resource to us, but we also then can be a resource to others around us. I want to ask you another question. How high is your AQ? Now we know about IQ and we know about EQ, but I want to ask you, how high is your AQ, your adaptation quotient? How good are you at adapting? How good are you at being proactive in times of change and in times of trouble? Can you sway with the winds of change? Can you think outside of the box when you realize there's nothing left in the box? Do you know where to go? Do you know where your strength is and your resources are? God has placed us in this wonderful, wonderful family called the church. Let's spend our time in this season growing our relationships, developing our relationships. Let's be a resource to other people, and let them be a resource to us in this season. And let's take a lesson from this shrewd manager. Amen. I hope that's been helpful to you. God bless you. Have a great day.